Can markets continue their bull run in 2026? Or will inflation and slower economic growth spoil the party? Let's get more from Bruce Campbell, founder and portfolio manager at StoneCastle Investment Management. Great to see you, Bruce, as ever. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Andy.
As we begin this new year, what are you paying most attention to in the markets?
I mean, we see a lot of things. So, one of the ones that you just mentioned was inflation. And we continue to see and continue to track the downward move of inflation, which, of course, will give the Fed more ability to lower interest rates. And I mean, there's a lot of pressure and obviously top line news today on, kind of that pressure that's being pushed from the government to the Fed. And so that's one thing we're watching. And then we also are watching a lot of the indicators that we follow. And you know that we have this top-down process here at StoneCastle. And we're seeing green lights in all of those indicators, including our what we call early warning indicator, which gives us a sense of where things are sort of 3 to 6 months out as well.
What's showing up in your early indicators?
Yeah, I mean, what we're seeing is just strength across the board from the market. So we track the markets on a number of different time frames, and that's one of the things that we're seeing is that strength there. So if we were to see some deterioration, what that means to us is that we generally tend to be a little bit more defensive. We tend to go a little bit bigger cap companies with a little bit lower beta, but we're not seeing that right now. So we continue to see, those areas that have been leadership in the past continue to be strong. We're also seeing a little bit of rotation though in leadership as well. So for probably the last 18 or 24 months, we've seen a lot of talk about the Mag 7. Well, now we're seeing that broadly diversifying out. And so as an example, the Russell 2000 was hitting a new high there on Friday.
It's interesting, yeah, that we've heard so much about that eventually there'll be a catch-up by these smaller stocks. And the Mag 7, it's certainly not down a lot, but it is not at record highs.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of going sideways here, and it probably does that. I mean, as those stocks kind of rotate. But you think about the money that's in just NVIDIA alone, if it starts to come out and rotate into other areas, there's a lot of money there that can move other stocks to new highs.
You have some stock ideas for us, starting off with one called Energia. Can you remind us what they do, Bruce, please?
Yeah, they're in renewable natural gas. And this is a really fascinating story because that was a really big trend going back a few years ago. This company came public and they got themselves probably over their skis a little bit as far as building facilities. And they almost went bankrupt. They were recapitalized, and now their focus continues to be on renewable natural gas. But instead, what they're doing is they're working with companies to build those facilities. So think about a company like Frito-Lay, for example. They have all of these facilities around the world that produce potato chips. And with that potato chip comes a lot of waste. And so what Energia is doing is they're taking that waste, turning it into renewable natural gas, which can then turn around and power those facilities. And Frito-Lay is one of their clients globally. And if you look at what they've done from a sales standpoint, they continue to ramp up their sales and get new orders and continued orders. They just turned EBITDA positive on the last quarter, which is really exciting news. And they're really not on the radar of any institutions because of the fact that they've gone through this transition and this recapitalization. And as a result, they're really starting to get more attention, and they'll show up on the radar of a lot of institutions this year.
Another stock that you do, I believe, like the look of is Lululemon. Bruce, would you be a buyer of it right now?
We don't actually like Lululemon.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it ranks around 1,100 of our in our U.S. rankings of 1,900 companies. So it's fairly far down. What we always look for, of course, is that earnings and revenue acceleration. And right now, we haven't really seen that. It sounds from the news, though, that Lululemon's had good numbers. And so we could see a bit of a ramp up here.
But what could get you warmer on Lululemon, Bruce?
Yeah, I mean, if we saw a quarter or two more of sustained sales, then at that point in time, it rises up through our ranks because we're looking for that revenue and earnings acceleration. And then that's where we'd be more interested in looking at it for the continued ramp and acceleration.
And finally, Bruce, how are you playing gold? Are there any gold names that you like, or do you buy producers, or do you buy seniors or intermediate developer type companies?
We tend to be in the middle there. So yeah, we have some senior producers and then we also have some intermediate producers. We don't do too much of the pure exploratory companies just because we don't have enough technical knowledge when it comes to trying to figure out whether or not those deposits are going to be productive. And also, the second thing is it takes so long now to get through that process from where they find or maybe are finding that discovery to when they actually build a mine. And it costs a lot more in a lot of cases and it takes a lot longer. So we try to avoid those, especially in a situation like this where we're seeing, really strong cash flow improvements from the producers because their cost of production versus what's happened with the commodity over the last couple of years is such a big difference that every single dollar that adds to the price of gold or silver just falls to their bottom line.
And you are keen on the cannabis space. You've invested in it over the years. It's been a tough sector to own in many cases. Are there any names you like there right now, though, Bruce?
It still continues to be really challenging from a political standpoint, just because there's so much on again, off again news of what's happening in that sector that right now we've just stepped back. We don't have any exposure in the sector. And, we're just kind of watching and waiting. If we were to get some sort of regulatory changes in the US, then that really fell across the board and helped some of these companies. There's a lot of value there, but we just, because of the volatility and the political nature of that sector right now, we just kind of stepped back.
Thank you very much, Bruce. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me on.
Bruce Campbell, founder and portfolio manager at StoneCastle Investment Management.